All right, so I'm going to try to capture this. I'm going to lock this down. You can see I'm locking that nice and tight. What I'm going to do is just put a little line here. And then I'm just going to put a slight bit of pressure on this. And you can see that with hardly any, try to get this nice and still, not much pressure, guys, I can move this fence almost a 1/16 of an inch. I didn't realize that this fence was as loose as it was until I started building my homemade one. And so now I've got this designed super tuned, so to say. I think this is probably the third try at least. And you know, for you guys who you know, you're thinking I'm wasting a bunch of material, yeah, I'm using a little bit of scrap wood, but guys, this is like, you know, me making these videos and creating these little machines is like going on a fishing trip. You know, guys go time after time fishing, burn a lot of gas. Well, for me, this is my fun. I enjoy designing machines, and this one's actually going to have a practical use, because if you've been following my videos, I'm actually going to redo my chop saw or my table saw station, and this is going to be my main saw. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you some features. I did make some real good improvements. Oh yeah, and I want to show you too. So this one, I'm at 4 feet here, guys. The other one I'm only at 3 feet. I'm at 4 feet. I can take, it takes the exact same amount of pressure to move this thing the same amount of distance. I'm really pushing on this, and it's hardly moving at all. So this thing is actually more rigid than my stock table saw, believe it or not. And that's got me, that's what I need. I can't have something that's not going to work if I'm going to tear apart my main saw, because for you guys who have been following, you know that I build kitchens for a living, so I need something that's going to be functionable if I'm going to replace it. So now I'm going to take this thing, or just go over this thing. So the first thing that was wrong, or that this thing needed done, was I needed a way that when I get this thing done, if my fence happened to be out a little bit, I needed a way to adjust it. So what I did was I actually added these 2 bolts on each end. And what these bolts do is, if you have a table saw, these are there to adjust the fence from side to side. So if it's out a little bit, I'm just going to be able to turn one of these in and bring it to true by using that. So now what I want to do is I want to take this thing apart. I'm going to eventually, instead of using a wrench, I'm going to actually put a little knob with a little stick coming out that I can tighten this. It does take a little bit of leverage, and I want something bigger than just a round knob to do this, but it doesn't take much. It's pretty easy. It's going to take literally seconds to get this thing tightened down, and then you know, be able to go from there. So I'm not too concerned about having to use a little, even if I use the wrench, it's not bad. So now I'm just going to slide this off the end so we can see how this is made, and I'll show you before I take it off here. So all this is a sheet of plywood, and I've got about 1.5 inch piece nailed down really good, both sides. I really just peppered it right full of air nails, so that it made a nice solid piece on here. And then all I did was, as you can see, now the clamp kind of reaches in and grabs a hold of that. And so now I'm going to slide it off here so I can take a few pieces. I want to show you guys a nice little, if I can get this apart, I want to show you guys a nice little feature about this thing. So just trying to hold the camera and do it. You guys will just have to bear with me. So I'll take these 2 screws out, and all this bottom board is for, as you can see, is just to hold this clamp mechanism in place. So all this clamp mechanism, all it entails is just a few pieces of plywood screwed together, and I did use nice big long screws. I pre-drilled and used nice big long screws so that this made this super rigid. If you were using unfinished plywood, I would suggest gluing it all as well. That makes it a lot more rigid as well. So the nice feature I did is, rather than just threading through the plywood, what I did was I drilled a 1-inch hole on the back side, and that's just big enough to be able to fit a 5/8 nut. And what you do is just drill a 1-inch hole deep enough that it would accommodate nut. Then you got to bang it in, so then it doesn't turn in there. So that's way better than just threading it into plywood. And I did the same thing. I'm just going to take this apart. So now you can see, when I did the fence, when I glued the fence, all I did was I glued these 2 pieces together, and I glued these 2 pieces to my plywood piece that for my fence system. This I didn't glue down. and I'll show you the reason. So that's the reason why. So now when I want to adjust it, I'll just tighten this bolt in, and what it's going to do is it's going to push against that. That's going to change the position of the fence. Pretty simple, guys. So now I'm going to take out a few screws. Try to get this done as quick as I can so the video is not 10 minutes long. Once I get this part done too, now I'm going to move on to the rest of the table. I want to make a sled for this thing too. I want to get tracks built into it. And my aim too is to build a smaller version of this for you guys that have just got them little wee table saws. And I'm going to make sure that I make it so that it's made in such a way that you can use your little table saw to actually build this unit. So this just comes apart here, and now what it reveals is on the inside I have the same thing. 2 nuts set into this thing so that it won't strip out. I'm not going to worry about this, guys, right here, because it's only ever going to get probably adjusted once. Once I get this thing adjusted, it's probably going to stay. I'm just going to have to push that to the spot, and then it's not going to be a wear spot. So not going to worry about that at all. So there she is, guys. There's the revised version. I can't see me making any more changes to this thing. I'm really happy with the way it's working. So you guys keep tuning in. You'll keep seeing this thing evolve. And so thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.